Hey everybody, it's Boardman21, and with our second build into Warpath, we are now playing the Void Knight. And the damage on this is going to be way more consistent than the damage we were seeing on the Forge Guard. If you've already watched that video, you saw that our damage can go from 600, 1000 to spike all the way up to 6000 damage, depending on how the stars align with all the skills and passive, because there were many different ones that all had different timing effects, and a lot of the time they weren't all completely aligned. So your average damage sat around 2000 on your hits with Warpath. Now on this, it's going to sit way more consistent. We're going to basically always be doing about 1500 damage per hit almost at all times. With that, the skills will be changed up a little bit. This is basically going to be the build that I was showed how to put it together by StormQuake, and I'm going to put his name in the title. However, the slight difference will be he was running time reversal or volatile reversal instead of Smite. I like Smite more, and I know that other people like to use Smite more because it doesn't make you jump around the screen, and sometimes you don't even know where you're going to land, and you kind of have no control over it. With that, we also get the skill Anomaly, which is going to be making us do so much more health leech that we're going to not depend so much on the health on hit and more on the leech, which is going to keep your HP pretty much full at all times, especially since you're leeching close almost to 80% of that damage that you're dealing with a void, and that 1500 damage you're doing, about half of that is the void damage, which means you're leeching about 500 health on a hit. Now with that, if you're going to want to do StormQuake's full build, he ran a very high HP build, and I don't have all the gear and exactly what he has on it. However, on this build in particular, we're going to be running the conversions of void and necrotic and poison into the fire and physical again. This is going to be the same gear that we had over on the Forge Guard. It'll be the same gear that we take to the Pally in our next video. But basically, we want to show that using different skills with each class based on their masteries, Anomaly for the Void Knight and Holy Aura for the Paladin, we're going to prove that you can get a viable hit Warpath build with no spell damage and without using a staff of any kind and still do well with it. Now with that, let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, we're going to be running Smite, Lunge, Anomaly, Ring of Shields, and Warpath. For Smite, we're going to be using this again for the flat fire damage and for the attack speed. We also did more Ignite on this specific build. We have 5 points in Blinding Flash, 4 points in Holy Fire, 1 point in Holy Wave, 5 points in Righteous Fury, 5 points in Righteous Flurry, and basically it's going to proc the same way that we used in the other one, with a couple of idols that on axe throw or any throwing attack is going to make it proc with a percentage chance. And in that case, we have the axe only hit because we're basically going to be in Warpath the whole time. You will notice on this build that we are not running Vengeance, we are running Anomaly, but we are still going to technically use Vengeance because you don't have to have Smite on the skill bar. So if you do start to run out of mana, Vengeance will give you plus 10 mana every time that you use it, so we still have it there for that purpose. With Lunge, we are still using Lunge for the critical strike increase so that you can get really close to 100% critical strike. You also are invincible while using it, and you also have plus armor for 4 seconds after using it, along with 40% more damage. It's kind of an OP offensive skill now that it's lost its defense, which is kind of for the better for Sentinel because it did need a damage boost. With that, we have 3 points in Tactician, 4 points in Forge On, 1 point in Unstoppable, 1 point in Initiative, 5 points in Avenger's Charge, 3 points in Deadly Aim, 1 point in Wound Weevil, and 2 points in Reckless Lunge. For Anomaly, this is the skill that you can only use on Void Knight as it is up high on its skill tree, and the nice thing about this skill is the amount of leech that you can get out of it. It also comes with some other nice things such as some attack speed and the fact that it can put, if you use it correctly, time rot on a lot of enemies. So on this we have 1 point on Void Touched, which means that because we also have 1 point in immediacy, which means all of the effects of Anomaly are triggered instantly. When you do use it, you're going to put time rot on every enemy around you, which it has quite a bit of a cooldown at 12 seconds, which means once every 12 seconds you're guaranteed to put time rot on everyone around you. We also have 1 point in Time Bubble, 4 points in Temporal Mastery, 1 point in Lingering Memory so that you will always have 100% uptime on the buffs, which is the attack speed and the leech, 1 point on Time Lord, so the bubble is cast on you and will follow you around. 2 points in Manipulation for increased attack speed. 1 point in Swift Rest for the increased cooldown recovery speed. 4 points in Time Eater so that you have 2% health leech of all damage that you do. This is doubled for Void, meaning you get 4% Void damage leech. And then we have 4 points in Void Maw for 200% increased health leech. That 200% is increase of the 4% you get, which means you're technically getting 12% melee void damage, actually all void damage, so anything else that's not melee, even though we're only doing melee in this, there's no future strikes, will be considered leechable just from this skill alone, which is a huge percentage and really helps you. I believe that this 200% increase might also increase other sources such as your passive tree melee void leech, but I'm not 100% on that. Either way, we're at a bunch of leech. For Ring of Shields, we're once again using this for increased armor and protections and for offensive damage. So we have 3 points in Banding, 2 points in Enduring Defense, 1 point in Molten Shields, 5 points in Touched by Fire for that increased melee fire damage, and 3 points in Touched by Fire for that melee fire damage that's not flat but percent increase. So you get plus 15 fire damage and then a 90% increase of all melee fire damage. That's a pretty huge boost. You get 1 point in Reinforcement, 2 points in Healing Shields, and 3 points in Phalanx for that 30% increased armor and 30% increased elemental protections whenever a shield heals you. Unfortunately, shields will not proc because we do not have Shield Crafter passive from the Forge Guard in the Void Knight tree, so you'll have to cast this one and it won't always be 100% uptime, but at least every 15 seconds when you do cast it, you'll have them for a while and have some buffs that last a little bit. Also, I believe that the armor and protections node is bugged. It's supposed to last 4 seconds on heal, and I believe it only lasts for 1. So it's a little buggy right now, but this build will only get better as things get fixed. For Warpath itself, we're using it for the Time Rot boost damage for its straight hit damage multiplier. So we have 1 point in Void Spiral, 3 points in Apocalypse Whirl, 5 points in Abyssal Tempest, so everything with Time Rot will take 150% extra hit damage from Warpath. 3 points in Unchained and 1 point in Reckless Spin to get the channel mana cost down into a usable amount. 2 points in Draining Assault for that 30% more damage, multiplicative with everything else. And 5 points in Reckless Combatant for another 75% damage. For passives, you want to have as many passives as possible in the Void Knight for the critical strike multiplier. But starting off in the Sentinel base class, we have 30 points in here. We have 5 points in Juggernaut, 5 points in Overwhelm, 8 points in Relentless, 2 points in Armor Clad, 5 points in Time and Faith, so that you can get mana back and health when using Vengeance, and 5 points in Axe Thrower. We have 5 points in Forge Guard to unlock the Ring of Shields. We put that 5 points in Battle Harden for that increased armor whenever you get hit, because as a melee character, you're going to get hit. 0 points in the Paladin and 78 points in the Void Knight. We have 5 points in Temporal Corruption, 8 points in Void Blades, 10 points in Sorrow and Still, 1 point in Void Corruption, 12 points in WoW, or Woe, 5 points in Rot Grip, 5 points in Singular Purpose, 3 points in Echoing Strikes, 10 points in Time Legion, 11 points in Dread. And that sums it up for this. Actually, we have 8 points in World Eater for that 12% Void Damage Leech. Now, if that 200% from Anomaly affects this, that puts you at 36% on this skill, which is huge, although I don't know if that 200% increase is actually global. Now, for items. These items are going to be slightly different, so I'm going to show you what I have, which are basically the same as what the Forge Guard is wearing, but then we're going to go over what StormQuake is using and how his damage is going to be a little bit higher and his leech will be more. For my weapon, we have again the melee physical damage, the melee attack speed, the health on hit, and the elemental protection. StormQuake, instead of using the increased melee attack speed, is using plus void damage. I believe you can get flat melee void damage, or you can just get percent increase of void damage. Either way, that's what he's using, and I believe he also has I'm not 100% on this, but has critical strike base increased as well, possibly instead of the void or either instead of the melee physical damage. I haven't seen his weapon, so I'm not sure, but his stats are different on that. However, these stats here are going to work just fine with it, as you do leech some of the plain physical melee damage. For idols, we have two different idols that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the Smite idols on throwing attacks, and if you can get percentage increased void damage over time instead of physical damage over time, that will be more helpful. We don't have that one. And then the other thing that you want is the increased void damage when a skill echoes. Now you're not going to be echoing a bunch of skills, but since we do use Vengeance every now and then, it does have a chance to echo, which will give you a percentage increased of 72% of void damage. Also, we get 86% increased void damage over time, which isn't huge. We're not doing really any damage over time. But if you do run future strikes, which we tried and it wasn't very effective, it would help you here. For the rest of the gear, it's going to be the exact same. We're wearing the exact same gear that we had on the Forge Guard. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you probably watch most of my videos, but I'm going to go over them again. We do have channeling affixes on the amulet and the 2 rings. We're still running the Orion's Eye unique, which is going to convert all that void damage to fire damage taken, and increase your fire protection by 100%. It also gives you plus 100 mana, which is pretty huge. It almost doubles your mana. And then we again have the necrotic and the poison damage taken as physical on both the helm and the chest, which are not maxed, and if they were, they would be even more helpful. With that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some gameplay.